Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flat Out Racing Network's coverage of race number 11 of the Dark Horse Racing Fart NDCar Series under the lights at the Bluegrass State Kentucky Speedway. This is the race that's going to set the table for the double points season finale race next week at Indianapolis. I'm Seth Cole, and he survived the terror of Daytona last week. Matthew Rodriguez joining me up in the booth here tonight. And Matt, down this home stretch, this isn't a sprint by any means, 150 laps, 225 miles, but of the last 6 races, this is the shortest race. So tonight, I think it's going to be all about execution. We had that changing of the guard last week. Taylor Jordan, who's been a race-winning machine, 4 wins in the last 7 races, now 19 points up on the consistent Eric Schaus. 2-horse race between those two. Are both of them eyeing this racetrack here tonight as a must-win?
I really think it's not maybe a must win, but it's really a make sure the other guy doesn't win and make sure you finish in front of the other guy. It's not really a marathon. It's not really a short walk, but it's kind of a jog in between of you guys need to be consistent both on pit strategy and in the race, but also limit your mistakes. Make sure that, hey, we're not dropping the ball somewhere and getting ourselves really underneath.
Another 10 drivers in the field here tonight as well, several of them looking for their first win. Only 2 races left, and some of them looking at that 0 in the win column, wanting to remedy that. You talk about the fact here tonight of, minimize mistakes, try and do a little bit better than your opponent for the top 2. Obviously, that's got to be the case, I think, for a lot of these other guys, too. Was watching a number of drivers in practice, practicing green flag pit stops potentially. That could be a key factor into the outcome of this race if we tend towards green flag runs.
Would watch on pit exit. Really, where you're seeing the cars right here, there's like a little bit of a bump when you exit pit road, and then you have to keep it all the way tucked up to that wall. You can't get up above the track until that back straightaway. And that access road is a lot sharper and a lot bumpier than you may think.
Taylor Jordan, not only a race-winning machine, but a pole-winning machine, captures his 4th pole on the season here tonight. You saw there the drivers that took time. 12 drivers going to take the green flag here this evening. 150 laps of racing. I think the fuel window is going to be somewhere, if it's indicative of our other 1.5 mile races, about 40 to 45 laps for these drivers, and pretty fairly good banking, especially over here in 3 and 4, so we may end up seeing some pretty good tire wear near late in the run, which may end up...
that right front's going to be baked.
could be making those late race moves a little bit risky. Be interesting to see that during the course of tonight's event, but here we go. Lights out on the iRacing pace truck, makes the dive onto pit lane. And Taylor Jordan, Matt Wagner are going to get us underway here tonight in the penultimate race of the season at Kentucky.
And Jordan's really been hitting his stride here in the last few weeks. I mean, nothing has seemed to phase him, really. And Schaus has not been outright speedy, but he has been extremely consistent.
Very consistent. Now remember, too, for Eric Schaus tonight, it may be a case of minimize the damage or at least keep the gap stationary. Mentioned 19 points, but recall next week when we get to Indianapolis, it is a double points race. So every position that you pick up, it's doubled the amount that you gain. And so 19 points, while in some series might seem like it might be insurmountable, like the championship is already wrapped up, that's minuscule going into a double points race, especially when you consider the fact that they're running a full distance Indianapolis 500 type race there. So a lot of moving chess pieces during the course of that one.
How I kind of see this is, in a way, kind of looking at, if you're Eric Schaus, hey, you did start back in the pack. He has started to work his way up here, ironically, right next to each other. But, hey, Taylor Jordan's running on some speed. I mean, he has been fast the entire season. It's a matter of time before he finally decides, hey, it's go time. I want to be up there. You know that maybe, hey, this isn't your best track. Maybe you didn't have a great qualifying effort. Maybe something isn't going to work out in the way that you want. Best thing you can do, run your race. Run your strategy. Don't try and beat the other guy and then force yourself into an error. I mean, you can control what you can control, and what you can't, just don't wreck the car.
See Charles Teed back in the field here tonight. Former winner this season at the mile-and-a-half Homestead Miami Speedway. So looking for his second win on the season. And Will Roberts taking the lead there in the number 31. Will is also looking for his first win on this, or his second win on the season, I should say. It's been a long time since he got that victory. That was all the way back second race of the season at New Hampshire. We got to go all the way back to early May.
Yeah, man, strolled into the series, got a win, was feeling great about himself, and then the next 5 weeks happened, and suddenly not feeling too great, but I think he can get right back up there.
And I feel like a lot of that was wrong place, wrong time for the driver of the 31 because he consistently had speed every track that we went to. Is now Eric Peterson going to take a turn out in front here in the 36. He's one of those drivers I mentioned that's looking for one in the win column. You got some other drivers back here like Najee Camargo, Arturo Mayorga. He burst on the scene back when we had the road course race at Road America. Ended up translating over to some pretty decent runs at the speedways as well. So, there's still some big name drivers that are still looking for that first checkered flag of the season. Obviously, everybody would love to pick up that big one at Indianapolis, one of those crown jewel races for open wheel drivers in that finale next week, but I don't think they would turn their nose up at a checkered flag here at Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, hey, we're late in the season. Maybe it's kind of too little too late for your points chances. I don't really know if you're going to clinch championship this year. But, hey, one in the win column is always better than nothing.
And the points are still really close for different positions as well. If you're not necessarily in the battle for the big trophy, you kind of have that obligation to go out there, do the best you can, and finish the highest possible in overall points. I mean, there's only 3 points difference between Will Roberts and Craig Forsyth for the final podium spot in the regular standings, third place. Joseph Morales and Najee Camargo, they're separated by 1 point for 6th position, and even if you go back even further, 9th position, Eric Peterson, DL Lemon, they're separated by 10 points for that spot. So there's still little battles going on inside of the top 10 in overall points that will culminate when we get to the checkered flag at Indianapolis. There's a little bit of connection problems there for our race leader, Eric Peterson. Looks like it's sorted out. Taylor Jordan, who started in the pole, has slided back into 2nd place now, trying to get back up there to the front. And there's Craig Forsyth, side by side with Charles Teed, the blue and white machine up there on the outside line. Forsyth, former winner this season. We didn't get to see his checkered flag at Motegi. Weren't able to broadcast that race, but
our passports didn't get approved.
They didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think I missed the plane, actually. I think I overslept and missed the plane. So, but nonetheless, looking for his second win on the season.
And really, I think Craig has gotten his feet under him the last few weeks where, I mean, you could tell he was fast and he was a little bit caught out on the car a bit for the beginning of the season, but he's really kind of reined it back in. And you could tell that kind of last season form is coming back. Maybe not in that same dominant stance, but you could tell that Forsyth is still home.
And 13 laps under our belt, still a long ways to go, but with a smaller field tonight, you kind of got a possible feeling this race could trend green flag for a majority, if not the entirety of it. You talk about the comfort level increasing for Craig Forsyth with this R11 car. Those type of races, you'll remember in the past when it came down to pit strategy, fuel strategy, what have you, Craig Forsyth always seemed to make it work to his benefit.
Yeah, and realistically, what you're kind of finding here, and what at least I've noticed last week, and what I've kind of found, goodness, what I've kind of found from talking to other drivers is some people really love how these cars drive, and they love how they feel, and maybe dirty air doesn't affect them too heavily, or maybe they feel like it doesn't affect them that much, and then you have the crowd that, man, I absolutely hate running these things. I mean, yeah, they sound cool, but they suck to drive, so on and so forth. It's kind of that balancing act of trying to make sure it's, hey, this is something that we really want to do versus, hey, this is something that I really strive in. This is a good car.
Not sure if we give out a gutsy move of the race award, but I think we got to remember turn 1 lap 16. If Eric Peterson wins this race, that move may have been the move that got him the win. My gosh, he was just barely able to clear across the front wing of Charles Teed up the middle 3 wide, and now he's back out in front as we're on board with Craig Forsyth. And you can see Not a whole lot of wheel motion there out of the driver of the 27 up in that second groove. Cars look fairly steady, at least for the time being, which is certainly not something that you drivers experienced last week when we were at the high banks of Daytona.
Well, the big thing that I really caught on with is these cars get massive runs, and you kind of have to. I would not doubt that a good part of this field is probably about 25-50% throttle here at the moment, because you're having to pick and choose your times, and the car is almost egging you on to do more, where it's like, yeah, I can shoot the gap. I got more speed. We can do it. And it's kind of the constant reminder in your head that, look, we can't always shoot it 3 wide. We can't always shoot the gap. Maybe this isn't going to work. Hey, we need to save fuel. We need to save tires. I mean, just various different things running through your mind of, hey, we need to do this, and this, where you kind of have to almost police yourself in that way, where you just cannot fully go out.
And it's crazy to think because if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm not remembering this entirely correctly, but I believe last week when you guys were running at Daytona, you guys topped out around 235. I just saw Charles Teed, the race leader, he topped out going into turn 3 at 245. They're running even faster here at Kentucky than they did last week at a 2.5-mile super speedway.
I think we were running about 240, 250.
Okay, so right around the same mark.
I don't know. I didn't have time to look at the speedometer. I just knew I was going fast.
Too much going on to look at the track.
I knew I was going fast. That's the thing.
Well, Eric Schaus going fast.
Oh!
Whoa! Into the wall there off of 2 as Peterson almost came down to Forsyth. Good save there by driver 36, but the 72 of Eric Schaus up here to the front. Going to look to the outside of Charles Teed. Now, this is a little bit different from what we've seen the last couple of weeks out of Eric Schaus. You know, we've talked to him, I think it was a couple of weeks ago when he finished on the podium. And he said, you know, I kind of wanted to lay in wait, preserve the faster pair, stay around until the end. Now, being second in the point standings, maybe that's kind of changed his race strategy here tonight to be a little bit more aggressive, get up there to that clean air, and lead some laps.
I mean, I think one thing is like, hey, at least getting your 1 lap lead, make sure you get that bonus point. But
yeah.
The next part is, I mean, look, you know that you've seen Taylor Jordan pretty much just completely walk in him and just walk the field with some of these restarts, and you have that in the back of your mind of, look, this is a possibility that could happen. So instead of just kind of sitting and waiting and maybe expecting it, just saying, hey, I'm going to take a more proactive approach. If I'm around drivers that I know, where I know Schaus, he knows Teed, he knows Peterson, he knows all of these guys up front, and he's very comfortable with some of these guys up front. Where if, let's say, maybe it was for example, Joseph Morales, Camargo, maybe Roberts, Wagner, maybe some guys he hasn't raced with in a while. I think he would be a little bit more shy to kind of take that aggressive approach.
See, Eric Schaus currently holds tied for the second fastest lap turned here tonight. Fastest lap currently Nate Fields at a 22.190, and mentioned about the fact that there is a difference in banking here at Kentucky from 1 and 2 over to 3 and 4. A little bit more banking over in 3 and 4. We saw Peterson get wide off of turn 2, get that outside wall. The lap after that, I noticed both Craig Forsyth and Taylor Jordan getting up close to that green safer barrier. So is that necessarily maybe going to be the trouble spot? Because you talked about how these tires at right front going to be screaming with that lower banking off of 2. Maybe that's where the push-up and that wall kind of creeps up on you here during the course of these long runs.
Yeah, I could really see tagging the wall out of 2 and 4, just trying to maximize that exit and just catching it just a little bit, or maybe just draft kind of carries you into it. Same thing, like I could see easily the right front kind of getting overworked here, maybe even the right rear a little bit with how I'm kind of seeing some of these cars enter the turns. But what I'm more concerned about, and again, as the long run goes on, and we've seen it time and time again, is that fuel cell. As the fuel starts to run down, is that back end going to really start stepping out?
We're about possibly 15 laps away, maybe 10 to 15 laps away from when these drivers will have to start thinking about getting onto pit road. Is Teed back to the point, Schaus in second, and Peterson third. The last time they crossed the start-finish line. 30 laps about to be complete. All 12 drivers still running, about 2 3/10 seconds separating those top 12. I noticed a couple of drivers have they're kind of riding at the back there. They've broken off a little bit from the pack. Matt Wagner in the 3, DL Lemon in the 08, though they both are still in draft. I don't know if they maybe had some struggles during the course of the last couple of laps and are now starting to work their way back up, or if they're kind of preserving their stuff here. I don't know. Is that possible to be able to preserve that right front?
You can, but I will openly admit that I'm not skilled enough to know how to do it.
How about Nate Fields? Seen him the last couple of weeks. He's had some struggles trying to get used to not only the car, but get used to the field here and the driver's racing tendencies. But he started this race, if I'm not mistaken, shotgun on the field, and he has worked his way now up to second place. Slowly, methodically, has made his way up into the podium. Good showing tonight. Maybe this is his breakout race.
Yeah, it looks like he started P9 and really has worked his way up the field. And like I said, I think you touched on it earlier, fastest lap, I really think he's just kind of practicing coming through the field, trying to figure out how he's going to gain all those spaces.
I think we saw him make his debut, I think it was back at Texas Motor Speedway back in mid-July. Was running into some issues in that race with the handling of the race car, and then last week we didn't really get to see what Nate Fields could bring to the table at Daytona. He was dealing with a bunch of connection problems and never was really able to get out into a pack, but good job right there, working his way up there, up to second place. He's now starting to drift back a little bit, now back in a battle for fifth with Arturo Mayorga as teed back to the front. Taylor Jordan now back up here to second. Kind of been a little bit of a rubber band or a conveyor belt here tonight for pretty much every driver in the field. They worked their way up towards the front, then they fade back a little bit, and then they worked their way back up to the front again.
A little bit of contact in the back of the field by, it looks like, Mayorga and actually Nate Fields. A little bit of contact in the back straightaway.
Charles teed right up across his front wing there through 3 and 4. Trying to look, see if there's any visible damage on the 05, the 4D racewear machine. Don't see anything there. There's a little side to side contact maybe there between
It
another
looked
driver.
almost on the wheels, but I could have swore it almost tagged the front wing, but these cars are durable.
They are indeed. Taylor Jordan trying to hold off Eric Peterson, and in turn trying to swing around the outside of the 5 of Charles Teed. You notice the 5 is not running right down there on that yellow line through 3 and 4. I'm not necessarily certain that he can. I would think that that car would get really, really tight. He's able to run it down here in 1 and 2, but again, not nearly quite as much banking as there is over in 3 and 4, so it might make that a little bit easier of a task.
I will say,
about a half groove, almost a full groove off the bottom through 3 and 4.
I'm really noticing a difference in the styles between Teed and Taylor Jordan. Teed, I mean, he is on that bottom. He is constantly almost seesawing the wheel, a little bit back and forth, trying to make sure it can hug that bottom line. But when I was looking at Taylor Jordan, he was really taking that aggressively high line. He's turning it a lot sharper to the turns. I almost noticed him almost shifting down, trying to get a better exit.
Yep, and we were just actually on board right here with Taylor Jordan, right on cue. Saw him downshift from 7th to 6th on corner exit there.
And he's turning way more aggressively.
What does that gain you? Because I don't necessarily... 7th gear we know is a draft gear. It's the high gear, but like, does it give you a better launch off the corner being in a lower gear, lower RPMs?
Normally, yes, but with how the gear ratios are here, I just don't see that much of an advantage.
Yeah.
Well, I said, Jordan's approach is a lot stranger than I'm used to seeing, because I've usually always been taught of minimal inputs, or hey, we're going to do a quick, corrective input, but we're not going to turn sharply into the corner because we don't want to burn our tires. But he's taking a lot more of an aggressive turning approach, but it's really working for him. And it's 43 laps in, where obviously it has not punished the tires that much. So maybe he's onto something.
Nearing that lap 45 mark, around where we're used to seeing drivers in the past here this season at the 1.5 miles, diving onto pit road. So we'll keep an eye on anybody maybe making that dive off of turn 4. Eric Schaus, Nate Fields. Uh-oh, got a couple of cars that just disappeared right there. Fields and I think that was Schaus both. I think half our top 4 was missing on the back straightaway. They've both reappeared now. Fields into second, Jordan into third. Mayorga with a fight there to Eric Schaus. He'll move up into the 4th position, and Schaus starting to fall back there. Now it's going to be Craig Forsyth. He'll get around him for the 5th position. I wonder if that's 72. Either he got caught out and lost momentum, or he might be one of the first thinking about diving onto pit lane here.
I think he may have been just trying to get to the bottom lane so he can get ready to pit. But, ooh. And that's one of the things that I will say, these cars, they're absolutely awesome at, and they absolutely infuriate the next driver, which is how much of a run they're able to gang off of some of these corners where, hey, if you're trying to set yourself up for a different entry, hey, suddenly you have a car to your inside where you thought you had room.
Charles Teed, the race that he won earlier on this season. We're going to see how many laps he led in that one. He ended up leading 23 laps. That's the second most that he led this season. The week before he led 35 laps en route to a 4th place finish at Auto Club, and then he led 21 laps at his last start a couple of weeks ago at Motegi. So in the last 4 starts, he's led a good chunk of laps and leading quite a number of laps here tonight as well at Kentucky. As a matter of fact, every single one of those races I just mentioned, side from Motegi, he ended up finishing up inside of the top 4 at least. So good things seem to come to the 5 car when he's out in front and leading a chunk of the distance.
And I'm noticing he's really still able to maintain that bottom lane even after 50 laps. I mean, this kind of puts in perspective where I'm really wondering how much that right front is suffering, even if at all. Because with how I'm watching Taylor Jordan drive and how I'm watching Teed still keep it on the bottom with really minimal push-up, I said that's kind of impressive, but also it makes me wonder if that right front is even really that hot or that warm.
Ooh, you saw right there, though, he got looked like a combination of tight on entry and then a little loose as he tried to overcorrect it going into turn 1. But, you know, kind of almost reminds me of somebody, and Teed has obviously raced against him here under the Dark Horse Racing banner. 1.5-mile racetrack, holding down right on the bottom. Nick DeGroot, probably going to school, to the Nick DeGroot school there. Learning from one of the best, Charles Teed, doing it here tonight, saying to Taylor Jordan, Eric Schaus, and others, if you're going to pass me, you got to do it the long way around the racetrack.
Can we send him a Twitter message and ask him if he can come back for the 500?
Hey, next week, folks, by the way, next week, we are going to be here on Sunday, but it is Sunday afternoon. It's going to be the season finale here for the Dark Horse Racing Series, the Fart NDCar Series.
Oh, looks like Teed's coming down.
Yes, he is. It's going to be the Dark Horse Crop Duster 500. Start time 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're coming to you mid-afternoon. So remember, it's going to be a little bit earlier than you've been used to here on our Sunday broadcast, as we're going to be bringing you 500 miles, 200 full-length laps at the Yard of Bricks. Is no surprise Teed one of the first ones on pit road, because with leading as many laps as he did, obviously he didn't have the benefit of draft to be able to stretch it a little bit further on fuel.
Yeah, I'm noticing he already went 1 down. He's going to go 2 down before he gets out, I think.
Definitely needs this race to continue to trend green. Does not want to get trapped a lap down or more.
He got held in his box about 10 seconds. I thought that pit stop with full fuel and tires is 8.
Now we'll see. Here come a bunch of others. We'll see what their pit stops look like. Ooh, Nate Fields drove over the commitment cone. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a violation or not. At Jordan, Mayorga, and Schaus right there. Eric Peterson also in this lap, along with the aforementioned Fields, as Forsyth and company. They're going to stay out an extra lap. Let's follow the 802 with his pit stop, see how long it's going to take. Is it also around the 10-second mark? Eric Peterson's was 10.3. 10.2 for Jordan and Shao. So yeah, I guess that's a regular pit stop around 10.5 seconds.
Oh, and it looks like Mayorga, he sped on entry.
Oh,
I think he hit that pit box or hit limiter just a little bit too late.
got a quartet of drivers on pit road this time. Forsyth, Wagner, Camargo, and Morales. That leaves just Will Roberts out on the racetrack, the last to have to come to pit road. Will spent most of this run riding around the 9th, 10th position, so he might have been saving to be able to stretch it as far as he did here. That lap led and now come to pit road on what will probably be a relatively clean pit road. I think most of the other drivers that came the previous lap will have already finished their service and be down and away.
Oh no, Craig.
Up, yep. Oh, Forsyth.
Let me just double check here, but
He's still sitting in his stall.
yeah, he hit pit line at 65. Pit road speed is 45. So that was an instant hit.
We talked about it earlier on. Greg Forsyth, when it's a race where usually it comes down to green flag pit stops and pit strategy, usually one of the best. And what do you think? Maybe the combination of car and track, not used to it, or just trying to get a little too much there for driver 27?
I mean, it's always a drive because realistically, taking pit road entry very aggressively is a high risk, high reward, where a lot of people take pit road very easily to make sure they don't have any issues, but they'll lose about 2 or 3 seconds if they're not careful. While someone who is doing a right on the number aggressive pit entry, I mean, they can gain a bunch of time on the next guy in line. It's just you're playing that risk of, hey, I'm running my number all the way to that cone and hoping that I'm exactly at 45 or exactly at pit road speed as soon as I cross it. And I think he just kind of didn't anticipate that cone was coming that early.
So it looks like I got the numbers just a little bit off in terms of how far these drivers are able to go. It may change with the field spread out now, but it looks like they went about 54 to 58 laps on a tank of fuel there on that first stint. Forsyth and Mayorga, both under the speeding police. They are going to be 1 lap down in 11th and 12th. Looks like Nate Fields, even though we saw him driving over the commitment cone, did not get a penalty for that. So we've got 10 of our 12 drivers on the lead lap, all of them running. And we said it was Taylor Jordan versus Eric Schaus coming into tonight. Little did we know, this is not scripted. It's Taylor Jordan versus Eric Schaus here after the cycle of pit stops, first and second, nearing the halfway point. We'll keep you here with this side-by-side battle for the race lead. We're going to step aside for a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back. We still got at least one more trip to pit road for all of these drivers. Could be the money stop in the closing stages tonight at Kentucky Speedway. You're not going to miss a thing because we're taking you FRN side-by-side. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flat Out Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Welcome you back here to the Kentucky Speedway. Nearly halfway home here tonight in the next to last race of the season for the Fart NDCar Series under the Dark Horse Racing Series banner. Taylor Jordan, Eric Schaus, we were watching in the side-by-side. They've now caught a group of 3 cars, including Arturo Mayorga, Nate Fields, and I believe that is also Craig Forsyth. Both Mayorga and Forsyth currently 1 lap down, in danger of falling a 2nd lap down. Now, while these 2 were catching these 3, 3rd place on back, they've been doing some pretty good work as well, because they were running about 3.5 seconds behind the top duo, and they've cut it down to about 2.5 seconds. Teed and Peterson and Wagner all kind of doing that slingshot that we saw you guys doing last week at Daytona, and we've seen done at most of the 2-mile racetracks this season, trying to see if they can close up and make it a 3, 4, 5 car fight for the race lead.
And you can do it, but you just have to be methodical about it. And realistically, you have to be able to just say, look, we're going to end up losing some laps, going to end up gaining some laps, but as long as we just keep doing it back and forth, and we make sure that we're communicating, we'll be up there in no time.
Like Mayorga and Nate Fields, they both have gotten passed by race leader Taylor Jordan, so Fields -1. He'd be in the free pass position should we get a caution. We've yet to see one since the drop of the green flag, and right now Mayorga 2 laps down. Forsyth was fighting to try and keep Taylor Jordan behind him, and now he has to adhere as well, and he will fall a 2nd lap down. Of course, we just joined us, both Forsyth and Mayorga getting hit by a speeding penalty on pit road during our first round of green flag pit stops. And we still got at least 1 more pit stop that these drivers are going to have to make. And you were bringing up an interesting strategy possibility if you're any one of these top 2 drivers here in Jordan or Schaus in regards to that final pit stop, Matt.
Yeah, and what I was kind of looking at was Taylor Jordan and Eric Schaus, where what I'm really in the normal mindset of is I would rather be the following car trying to save, trying to save as much fuel as possible, and then try to stretch it out as far as possible, trying to get your best lap strategy. But my thought is they pitted with about like 58, 59, 60-ish. If I can at least make it another 50 laps on my base fuel tank without actually having to draft any or having to do anything else, I would rather be the lead car, lead those laps, get the bonus points. Then I would rather just come in early, take the undercut, go out for a few more laps, trying to take advantage on maybe a lead, or if I have another lap car or someone I can draft off of. Use that advantage, and then, hey, Eric Schaus or Taylor Jordan, whoever's behind me who's been following me, hey, they have to go farther to make that work. I'd say I think it's a little bit of a moot point now with all the lap cars around them, but again, it's one of the things to kind of keep in mind where I don't think staying out longer is going to help you here.
Yeah, if you were looking for that undercut right when the fuel window opens, potential to make it the rest of the way, you'd be considering coming to pit road somewhere in the next 15 to 20 laps. You're absolutely going to have to come to pit road somewhere around 40 to go. That'd be around 55 laps on this tank of fuel, and obviously during that first run we ended up having, I think, around at the most 2.2 seconds from the leader back to 12th place. Everybody was in a big pack. Obviously we've got now about 2 or 3 different packs scattered around the racetrack. Actually, now that second group has reeled in this first group consisting of the 3 lap cars and the 2 race leaders. So Charles Teed, Eric Peterson, Matt Wagner, Will Roberts, mission accomplished for them. The lap times, though, with what we saw and the fuel consumption, would have been a little bit greater there before they caught up to them, so wouldn't be able to quite stretch it as far on this stint as they were on the first stint. But now this is going to be interesting because you've still got those 3 lap machines all intermingled in there, proverbial X factors, proverbial drafting partners or slingshot ease to be able to utilize and trying to make passes up here inside of the top 5.
I mean, lap cars, in my opinion, is kind of a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because, hey, if you're trying to catch up to the lead pack, you need someone in that intermediate. And hey, I'm never going to complain for free drafting help. But when you're up there, or if you're to lead cars, you're trying to shoo them away. Like, get away, don't let them come back up here. And more or less, hey, I'm on the lead lap, let me by. And it's just another one of those cars that you have to kind of fight your way around and you're not expecting.
I'm gonna try and see how much of a process it is to get slingshot ease coined as a phrase. Well, you look right here, watch with the 5 of Charles Teed, and you can visibly see, if you watch especially the left front tire, watch going down here into turn 3, and watch how there's that little bit of slide up. You can visibly see the car sliding up the groove right there, very loose on the exit of turn number 4, almost as if the car is floating. So working that wheel, working these tires is Charles Teed. He put in a lot of effort along with another 2 or 3 drivers to get up here to this lead pack. He's led the most laps here tonight. He's trying to see if he can lead the most important one, that final lap here tonight, to pick up his 2nd win on the season. But we talked here tonight about execution. This is the shortest of the final 6 races on the season. 225 miles. I think of the last 6, the next lowest was 226 miles, 226 and a half at Texas. Tonight was going to be all about execution. Smaller field, likelihood of green flag pit stops. We've already seen 2 drivers that have been penalized due to being a little aggressive on pit road. Now, one of them, Craig Forsyth, was up there in our top 5 when that pit stop cycle began. If you're any of these other guys up here, like a Teed, Jordan, Schaus, Peterson, have been up inside of the top 5, top 3 all night long, you gotta rein it back a little bit, right, on this final pit stop? Or do you just kind of throw caution to the wind and say, you know what, I'm doing exactly the same thing that I did on the first pit stop and hope that it doesn't come back to bite me?
If I'm everyone but Eric Schaus and Taylor Jordan, I'm risking it. If I'm those two, I'd think about it.
Taylor Jordan, Eric Schaus, right now 2nd and 4th, respectively. Both drivers have led laps. There are other bonus points that are given out during the course of the race. No incident points. You end up getting bonus points for that. Fastest lap of the race, that driver ends up getting bonus points. I believe last I checked, I think it was Craig Forsyth had the fastest lap of the race, and now that I check in again, it's Charles Teed, our race leader, 22.039. A couple of drivers have eclipsed the 22.0s. Same can be said for Naja Camargo with an 07 and Eric Peterson with an 08.
You know, I'm still looking here, and the lap times absolutely kind of just blow my mind that we're running almost 22 seconds a lap. And Seth, you'll be very familiar with this. What is the NASCAR qualifying record at Bristol? What do you think the lap time is?
At Bristol? Oh, gosh. Actually not familiar with that. I would say probably like in the 15, 16 second range.
14.5.
Oh, okay.
5.28. They're running about 7 seconds off the pace, but again, let's put in perspective. Bristol is a half mile. This is a mile and a half.
Yep.
It is absolutely wild that we're doing laps this quickly, and it just kind of adds to that mental strain of the drivers where you have to be alert for 150 laps, and it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when you kind of put it in perspective of, hey, 150 laps, you have to hit your mark over and over and over again, because, hey, if you miss it, you're most likely going to hit another car here. And it's and these open wheels, when something happens, it kind of happens big.
It does. Now, here's the one good thing. If something happens, most of these drivers still have their faster pair intact. Remember when Eric Peterson got the wall early on this race off of turn 2? He's the only driver in the field that did use his faster pair on that pit stop. The only driver that does not have that mulligan. So, doesn't look like he's racing scared right now. Still up there inside of the top 5, side by side with, I believe that was Matt Wagner. No, that was actually Arturo Mayorga, the lap machine. But that might be something to kind of keep an eye on here during the closing stages if we end up starting to see the aggressive level kick up even more and maybe some sheet metal get torn up.
Because I'm kind of looking at it here, and if I'm Eric Schaus, I'm sending it, but I did not see that much damage on his car beforehand, so he must have felt something that kind of made him think that, hey, it's a better idea just to take the fast repair.
Oh, no, it wasn't Schaus. It was Peterson. Peterson took the fast repair. Remember when he got off into the wall, off a 2?
Yeah, I saw him get into the wall, but I looked at the right side of his car. Nothing was pushed in, no damage on the underbody. It looked fine, but obviously something obviously wasn't fine there.
Charles Teed continuing to show the way. Here comes Taylor Jordan, charging back up on that outside line. It's ahead of Eric Schaus there. Point standings, obviously, for open wheel racing, entirely different than stock car racing. The 1.1 position type racing, entirely different here in this series. If I remember correctly, I think it's 5 or 10 points difference between the top 3 finishers, and then it's intervals. I believe it's 3 points down through the rest of the top 10, then 2 points further on down. So in the case of Eric Schaus and Taylor Jordan here tonight, I think for Eric Schaus, goal would be to at least finish ahead of Taylor Jordan, eat into that points lead, even just the least little bit. If you can have 15 points separation between you and Taylor Jordan heading into next week at Indianapolis, that's definitely manageable, especially with the fact as we keep talking about this entire second half of the season. It's the only double points race on the schedule.
The big thing that I really want to point out here, when we had it, I believe it was last season between Forsyth and Rick Ravon, where
Yes.
Ravon really shot himself in the foot just because, I mean, I think he got way too caught up in the moment, and he ended up almost driving above his head, or driving really above what he needed to. He started pushing when he didn't need to, just trying to get that advantage on Forsyth, and that's really what doomed him, where it led him into either mistakes or something happening. And the big thing is you got to look at it and say, hey, as long as he finishes the race, it doesn't matter if he finishes behind, maybe 1 or 2 spots behind Taylor Jordan, or Taylor Jordan finishes 1 or 2 spots behind Schaus. They still get enough points where, hey, you're still in it for the last race.
Oh!
My goodness!
Wow, that was close there for Teed as Arturo Mayorga comes flying into pit road along with
Did he
the
speed?
5. I think he did. I'm pretty sure this is going to be the second speeding penalty handed out to the 12 car. Oh,
Uh,
and he gets into Teed on pit road. He driving through the pit stalls there, including Mayorga's car. That's DL11 that just completed his service as well. This is around when we expected that final pit stop. Nobody utilized your undercut strategy, unfortunately.
oh, he got a little bit squirrely on exit, but still
Peterson.
got out there.
Taylor Jordan is in. Oh, did he get it wound down? Man, he locked up those tires. That thing nearly snapped around on him. He was 25 degrees to
Uh,
the left there for a moment.
I don't know. He hit the line at 58, but he did slide to about 30-ish, so...
Trying to average it out. Here comes Eric Schaus onto pit road. He's going to lock him up there. Ooh, both of our championship contenders playing with fire. Very aggressive on pit road entry. We'll see if they're both okay.
Schaus entered at 72. I think Schaus is getting the speeding penalty.
Did they get him woed up enough? That is the big question. As Matt Wagner, Will Roberts, they stay out.
So Peterson got a speeding penalty. Taylor Jordan somehow didn't get a speeding penalty.
Yep, he's down and away. Schaus is...
Got a speeding penalty.
Oh, yep.
And this is what we're really talking about, where, hey, it's playing a very big game of risk versus reward. And Taylor Jordan played the game, I think, a little bit better here, because, yeah, he did come into the pit road at 58, but he slowed it all the way down to about 25, where it was still within that gap where he could average it out, where it wasn't going to hit him with a penalty. But Schaus came in about 30-ish miles above the speed limit, which, unfortunately...
Oh! Who was that missing pit road there? Is that, I believe that was Najee Camargo. He
He
completely missed the
missed it.
commitment line.
Yeah, he missed the commitment line, but still came in. He's gonna get a penalty over that because he didn't actually enter pit road safely.
That Wagner we saw came down pit road, and Will Roberts, he stayed out the longest on the first cycle of pit stops, so he will be the last one to complete what should be the final cycle of pit stops here tonight at Kentucky. As things stand right now, of course, we do have to wait for Wagner and Camargo to finish cycling around, but I think projected Taylor Jordan will probably end up cycling as the race leader with Teed in second. And tough break there for Schaus because now he is, well, he's 3 laps down currently. That'll change when the 31 dives onto pit road, but he'll be at least off the lead lap, currently in the 9th position. Kind of that big risk, big reward thing there for Eric Schaus, and it did not work out. So what was
Ooh.
19 points, that was awfully dicey there for Will Roberts
I
as well.
he entered about 60. He slowed
Oof.
it down to about 30. We're gonna find out if that averages out.
Well, if you folks tune in on Thursday nights to the Tally Challenge, the Rolling Thunder Gaming Tally Challenge, you'll see them do the hot pitting there as well. You can enter onto pit road above pit road speed limit as long as you then get down below pit road speed limit and kind of average it out to around the 45 mile per hour allotted pit limiter. So some drivers have been successful, as we've seen. Some drivers have not.
You know, I have a really nice photo hanging above my desk that really is me just plowing into a car on pit entry because I couldn't slow down in time. That reminds me I need the brake early.
Well, sometimes the other car can be your pit limiter there.
That car
If
is
they're
a
going
brace.
45 and you hit them, more than likely you're going to be going 45 by the end of it.
I mean, if you're lucky, you don't get a pit road speeding penalty. The guy in front of you does.
All right, so here's interesting thing, and it does make a bit of sense. When we were talking about that final pit stop, I said you're probably going to have to take on the entire fuel capacity to make it the rest of the way. The final pit stop took place around 45 to go, 10 laps short of the 50 to 55 lap runs we've seen them make. Matt Wagner spent 8.1 seconds in his pit stall as opposed to everybody else that was around the 10 to 10.5 seconds. So he might have taken on just a little bit less fuel, maybe that 10 laps less fuel, and that's why he is cycled out as the race leader. The question is, though, did they get the right amount put in to get him to the checkered flag?
Honestly, I kind of like that. I kind of like that call. If it is the
Gained him
case.
4.5 seconds over Taylor Jordan, and he has a group of drivers around him here, Eric Peterson, DL Lemon, and Arturo Mayorga, that he could use to draft off of if he needed to.
And I can confirm it was fuel. He's got 4 tires, so he's good to go with that. So, yeah, if he could save the fuel and, Taylor Jordan doesn't find an 8th gear, I mean, you could easily kind of drive away with this one.
Matt Wagner has run a part-time schedule here this season. This is his 6th start on the year, 16th in overall points. His best finish on the season was back at Phoenix, where he finished on the podium in 3rd. That was back in mid to late May.
I know it really burned him up last week not to run Daytona. I mean, I could tell that was something that he was looking forward to and just couldn't do it. So, a good way to kind of bounce back.
Yeah, he also, from what I remember seeing in the Dark Horse Racing chat, was also disappointed to miss out on Motegi as well. So making up for it here tonight, trying to see if he can add his name to the list of drivers that have taken a checkered flag here in the FART NDCar series. Drivers like J.W. Miller and Will Roberts, Eric Schaus, Charles Teed, Craig Forsyth, and of course Taylor Jordan.
And Jordan, really what he needs to do is just, he does not need to push. You do not need to go win this race.
Right.
Maintain. And this is the big thing that we were talking about last season between Forsyth and Ravon, where Ravon was the one who would make those mistakes. And Forsyth, well, he was Forsyth. He made sure that he didn't make the same mistake in return. And that's really what let him start to walk away, where he didn't really have to worry about it.
Yeah, as of right now, not including bonus points for laps led or getting the bonus points for no incidents or anything like that, if we're just looking at points that are handed out per position, if Taylor Jordan finishes where he's at, he's going to net 40 points here tonight. Eric Schaus, who's mired back off the lead lap in 8th position, he's going to get 24 points. That's 16 points just right there. Add that to the 19 points that Schaus was behind Jordan coming in tonight. That is 35 points. No bonus points tonight included. I'll tell you what, 19 looked a heck of a lot better than 35, even though next week's a double points race.
Yeah, and really what Schaus can kind of take in solace here is that it could have been a lot worse. It could have ended
True.
up really a lot worse.
That is
So,
true.
like I said, while it looks bad right now, it's not as bad as it could have been. He could have easily, let's say, locked it up on pit road, spun it around, and hey, it just plowed into the fence and took out the tires. I mean, like I said, that could always happen. So,
And, you know, it may not make a difference whether it was 19 points or 35 points going into next week, because I can't recall the number of times we talked with drivers in the next to last race of the season, and we said to them, you know, double points race at Indy, that's pretty much been the mainstay event. We've had other races, Auto Club in Michigan on the schedule before, there have been double points races, but Indy has always been a double points race in the finale, and we've said, you know, are you doing calculations heading into that race of, you know, where you absolutely need to finish and hope that your competition finishes to be able to win the championship? And they say, no. We go out there with the mentality of win the race and just let the points fall where they may. We get all the opportunity up here to be able to do the calculations in the booth, but for the drivers out there, when they put on the helmet, they could care less about calculating points in their head. They're just out there trying to finish the best they can, and could be the same mentality there for Eric Schaus. If it was 35 points going in or 19 points going in, he probably still would have the same mentality of, I just wanted to go out there, get that checkered flag, and you know, if I gain enough points to win the championship, so be it.
and absolutely everyone wants to win in Indianapolis. I'm not really sure if I can say the other term without getting visited by Mr. Penske. But obviously everyone wants to go win that race, and it's kind of, it has its prestige. So, like I said, it's one of those things where you just don't, if you're Taylor Jordan, if you're Eric Schaus, you don't really think about the championship being on the line. You just think, hey, I really want to win this race. And hey, if the championship ends up falling in your lap because of that, I mean, that's great. But in my opinion, even with points being so close, I would rather go win that race than win the championship, because it just means more to me.
By the way, Roger, we're big fans. Battle for second. Taylor Jordan has been reeled in by Charles Teed, so that could be some good news for Eric Schaus. If Teed is able to take away the runner-up spot from Taylor Jordan, that is 5 points that Eric Schaus gains back on the driver of the 802. 40 points for second, 35 for third place. And of course, as we mentioned, with Indianapolis next week, that season finale, we're going to
Oh,
be coming
caution!
Oh boy!
Najee Carmago.
Yep, bottom of 3.
Looks like he got a little. Actually, no. It looks like in the 1 and 2 got a little bit of assistance. It looks like Eric Schaus. Looks like
We had 4 drivers on the lead lap at the time of that caution. DL Lemon in 5th will be the lucky dog. I don't think anybody's coming to pit road, so I don't think you're going to have wave around opportunities here.
realistically
And
the best
if
thing
Matt
that you
Wagner was
can,
short on fuel, this is huge. This caution is huge for him to save.
the best thing that you can do if you're in Eric Schaus's shoes. I don't know if he got any damage, but hey, you're a lap down, come down pit road, go get it checked, make sure everything's all still hunky-dory on it. But feel free to go get new tires, maybe put a little bit extra fuel in the car, make the back end a little bit weighed down.
There's a really strange line there for Najee Camargo on the front straightaway.
Yeah,
It's almost like the thing didn't turn.
actually, it looks like there's another incident under pacing.
Take a look at it again here. Is there... No, there's no contact.
Oh no! There's another incident under pacing. It involved DL Lemon and Joseph Morales. Or not Joseph Morales, Taylor Jordan.
See if we can find that.
There is some damage on the suspension of Jordan's car. What in the
I
world
believe
is
this is
going
it
on?
right here.
I think he gassed up and lost the back end. But man,
Yep. Oh, wow. Up there in the marbles. You can visibly see the marbles up there. No grip.
yeah,
Those
I think
tires would have
he.
been warm from the run, would have, as they're cooling down, picked up those marbles up there, and as he gassed it up, thing just snaps around straight into Taylor Jordan. I mean,
But I've looked at the suspension on Jordan's car. It's definitely pushed in.
faster pair
He,
worthy, do you think?
it's gonna be faster pair report worthy because, like I said, he needs. To, yeah, he went in and got it fixed. But like I said, his wheel was pointing all the way to the right just to go
This is,
straight. So
this is on board with Taylor Jordan. Just slowing up for the pace car, and watch right here, you'll see on the right side of your screen, bam! DL Lemon into his right side, and
like I said, he tried.
boy,
He tried his best to make sure it could keep going as is. But like I
yeah, you
said,
see him shaking the wheel there, seeing
if he
what the
stayed
suspension
out
is.
if he stayed out like that, he was already going to be in a world of pain. So he made the smart move, came down, and like I said, this is what we call situational awareness. Don't get angry. Don't start screaming. There's 5 cars on the lead lap. You're one of those 5 cars. Go down, get your fast repair, come right back out. Hey, congratulations, it's still P5.
Yep.
And hey, Schaus is still P7.
Schaus going to be 1 lap down, it looks like, along with DL Lemon, who I believe, based off of scoring when they got to the line, would have been the lucky dog, but with the incident there under caution, forfeited the free pass position, and instead Will Roberts is going to be the 5th driver on the lead lap via the free pass. So Wagner, Teed, Jordan, Morales, Roberts. Those are the 5 drivers here that are going to be on the lead lap. And boy, this caution changes a lot, because not only with what we just saw take place there, the reason for the caution, and then what happened there after the yellow flag was waving, it kind of brings things a little bit closer again between our 2 championship drivers, but also this restart's going to be in the vicinity of less than 15 to go, probably about 13, 12 to go maybe when we get the green flag once again. Uh, the checkered flag from this point on is going to pretty much be on the line. We may not be done with yellow flags, even though we ran the first 130 laps completely under green.
And don't forget, we still have, I believe, the 2 green white checker. It's kind of sitting in the bank.
Yep.
But what I'm kind of looking at here is, if you're Eric Schaus, you got a mission. You got to get past DL Lemon, and you got to make sure you're as high up as possible to avoid whatever wreck's coming, so you get that lap back. Now, like I said, you can go get it the hard way, and you can go drive by the leaders, but you just got to make sure that you are first car lap down, just in case anything happens. If you're if you're Taylor Jordan, you just kind of sit there and you cross your fingers, hoping that nothing else happens. And especially, I would take it a little bit easier now, now knowing I don't have that fast repair anymore. I said you kind of have to play it a little bit more conservatively, because if something happens, congratulations, now Eric Schaus is in the best position possible, and you're out of the race.
Single file restarts, lap cars, they intermingle with the lead lap cars. So you see your race leader, Matt Wagner, you got to go back to the 5th running car in line. That is 2nd place Charles Teed. You've got some lap machines of Peterson and Craig Forsyth, DL Lemon in between the 3 and the 5. So big advantage for Matt Wagner here on
I'm
this
looking at
restart.
DL Lemon's car. That thing is not straight. That thing's not pointing straight.
Yeah, that front wing is
The car
pretty
is
mangled.
crabbing. Is his wheel straight?
Do not know. This will be very interesting for drivers behind him on this restart, as Wagner, green flag in the air. Boy, he waited. He waited as long as he could there to the end of the restart zone. Charles Teed was on it, though. He's already passed 2 of the lap cars. Now going to try and get by Eric Peterson to get up there to Matt Wagner.
Now, here's where I kind of ask you the question: is running that lighter fuel load going to come back and bite Matt Wagner now?
Yeah, maybe. It could very well. I mean, Matt Wagner, this is the first time, at least on a restart or up at the front on a short spurt, that he has been out in that clean air. For the most part, he's kind of been riding on that first and second stint. The pit strategy got him out in front. He was probably the last one that wanted to see that caution, to be perfectly honest. He had it pretty well in hand, and look at that. Teed swings around the outside, and he's going to go back to the point.
And it looks like DL11's really off the pace. I'm not really sure why he didn't come in and fix that damage, but like I said, I think that car is crabbing down the straightaways. Like it has suspension damage.
And DL Lemon does have a faster pair still available. I believe up to this point, 5 drivers have used their mulligan, including Taylor Jordan, Craig Forsyth, Eric Peterson, Nate Fields, and Najee Camargo have all used their faster pair at this point in time. If you're Eric Schaus, 10 to go, you are screaming for somebody to bring out a caution because he is in the lucky dog position, and Taylor Jordan is picking up some spots up to 3rd, and he's looking at the top 2.
Like I said, this is the point where you're crossing your fingers, hoping that everything plays out in your favor, but unfortunately, he's just going to have to kind of wait and see.
Interesting to see how Taylor Jordan approaches the closing stages of this race. I think you get, maybe if you're running in the 3rd position and you get to the white flag, you might actually go for it. He's going to go for it now. He's going to go underneath Wagner into the top of Charles Teed, because on the white flag lap, if you end up being in the race car, you know that the worst you're probably going to finish is 5th position.
And like I said, I kind of agree with Taylor's strategy here. I mean, you got to think of it. It's a risk versus reward. It's, hey, yeah, it's a big risk, no extra faster pair in the bank, but it's a very big reward where, I mean, look at where Schaus is at the moment. I mean, if he gets a win, hey, congratulations, that's winner points versus P6 points.
Will Roberts there in the 31 as well. Bear in mind that Charles Teed and Matt Wagner both did not come to pit road under that caution, so when they went back green, they had about 30 laps on their tires. Roberts and Taylor Jordan more out of necessity of repairing damage, they came down pit road, and I'm pretty certain would have taken on some fresh Firestones, so they would have been able to have a little bit extra grip here in this final run to the checkers.
I about had a heart attack when I saw Lemon's car.
Yeah.
Man's running a DW12 with all the R11.
That thing right now is topping out at around 215 going into the corner, while the rest of the competition is sitting about 245.
That's scary. That
is scary. Fortunately, he did stay up out of the way, as here comes Taylor Jordan to the outside of Charles Teed. Teed doing what he's done pretty much all night long when he's been out in front, saying, hey, I'm going to hold this yellow line. You got to take the longer way around if you're going to wrestle this race lead away from me. Will Roberts way up there as they were 3 wide down the back straightaway. Now, one thing we do have to bear in mind, that yellow line, it's not out of bounds. It's just the guideline showing where the racetrack ends and the apron begins. If you're gutsy enough, if you're a Will Roberts or a Taylor Jordan, you might go down below that yellow line here on the back straightaway to make a pass for the win on Charles Teed.
I don't see that being a viable lane, really.
Oh, gosh! Will Roberts' big save there as he was almost up into the gearbox of Charles Teed, and now Matt Wagner says, hey, I want to play. 4-man fight for the lead, and there you go. Taylor Jordan put all 4s down below the yellow line, but couldn't get to the inside of Teed on the backstretch.
Oh, Forsyth in the
wall.
wall. I'm really wondering if that underneath the yellow line is legal, because normally it isn't legal. And I think that's what Jordan is questioning too, is if it's legal or not.
Attack for second on the front straightaway between Jordan and Roberts. Joseph Morales has entered into the vicinity. Look at the 60 high, wide, and handsome. All 5 of the lead lap cars are up here. They want this checkered flag. White flag is in the air at Kentucky.
I think Will Roberts just bump drafted Teed.
Oh my gosh, who's going to bring home the trophy? Who's bringing home the steering wheel? It could be all 5. Throw a blanket over him here. Going into 3. Roberts, he looks low. Jordan looks high. Teed trying to keep them all at bay, and he will do so. One last effort by Jordan, but Teed gets his 2nd win on the season as he takes the checkers here tonight at Kentucky. What a battle there at the end.
And Teed played it perfectly.
Yes, he did.
He knew that he could go up to block Jordan, trying to stop at that momentum. But that bottom lane was just too strong, and he'd been using it all race. He knew that, hey, while it may look bad, it's not going to be that bad when we go on the 3.
First win on the season was at Homestead. Tonight, he wins in the Bluegrass State at Kentucky. And what a battle there. All 5 of the lead lap cars were all, I believe, 3/10 of a second is what they're showing was the separation from first back to 5th place. It was a photo finish for the 3rd spot between Roberts, Morales, and Wagner. Roberts gets that spot with Jordan bringing home 2nd and Teed with the victory. Jordan, the runner-up spot, Schaus in 6th rather, so the gap will increase, maybe not by a whole lot, but it's going to be interesting to see what the official total is between those two with the championship on the line next week at Indianapolis. But the fireworks going off here tonight in celebration of Charles Teed's victory at Kentucky. What a final shootout to the finish.
Oy, oy.
Everyone take a collective breath.
It really makes you wonder what Taylor could have done if he didn't have to grab that fast repair, if he would have been closer up and had more time.
Would have, I believe, restarted the race in 2nd behind Wagner.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been Teed that got that kind of advantage. I said that's a tough one. I'm glad I don't have to figure that one out.
Yeah. And, credit to Charles Teed, too, because we mentioned there on that restart, he had 3 lap cars between himself and then race leader Matt Wagner, and he timed the restart perfectly, jumped to the inside and got past 2 of them by the time they exited out of turn number 2, made quick work of Eric Peterson, and then it was on from there, got the lead from Matt Wagner and never looked back. 6/100ths of a second was the interval between him and Taylor Jordan. Taylor probably wished that this had been Talladega, because that extra few hundred feet with the run he had out of 4 might have gotten him the checkered flag. He was right on the gearbox of Teed crossing the start-finish line, but he'll have to settle for 2nd. Roberts going to complete the podium in 3rd, and then Morales and Wagner were the last drivers to finish on the lead lap, netting top 5s as a result. Schaus pretty much doing all he could do, being the only car 1 lap down, bringing it home in 6th. Nate Fields, we saw him up there at the front in the early stages, brings it home for 7th. I believe that's his best finish of his career this season. 2 laps down, Eric Peterson, Craig Forsyth, DL Lemon. A lot of these drivers that we see here outside of the top 5 multiple laps down were drivers that did not fare all that well against the speeding police here when we had those 2 cycle of green flag pit stops.
Oy, oy. I'm just trying to think. Man, Joseph Morales, I really, I thought he had 3rd there for a minute, and Roberts barely got him at the line.
And slight error on my part. It is not 8 o'clock next week for the Indianapolis race. It is 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday afternoon. We're bringing you coverage since it is going to be slightly longer race. 500 miles, 200 laps at the home of the Yard of Bricks. But here tonight, what a way to kind of set the stage for that season finale here at Kentucky. And it's time to go down and see if we can talk with a few of the drivers involved in that wild shootout to the conclusion. Let's see if we can kick things off with the guy that brings it home in 3rd. Let's dial up Will Roberts. Hey, Will, it's Matthew and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, how y'all doing tonight?
I'll tell you what, we got treated to a slobber knocker of a battle here in the closing stages at Kentucky. Slicing and dicing, 3, 4 entirely different lanes going into the corner. Had a shot at him there, maybe going into turn number 3 on the final lap. I mean, what more was there a possibility of doing to be able to get this 31 in victory lane? And how crazy was it from your perspective? Because obviously a little bit of a limited view with you guys stacked up double and 3 wide.
Yeah, no, I did about all I really could. I just got a little unsighted. I was hoping to have held a little bit closer to Charlie there, because I felt like if I could just hold it a little closer, I could probably cut under him. But yeah, no, I just got a little unsighted. Couldn't do anything more there on the end. I was a little disappointed. I felt like I had a speeding penalty on my second stop, and I felt like if that hadn't happened, I would have been in about the same position Wagner was in, if not maybe even just a little better. So I'm just glad to have salvaged what I did out of that.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and put it the reverse side. I mean, obviously, it kind of sucks that you weren't in the battle coming to the checkered flag. But you and Joseph Morales, my goodness!
Wait, what?
Oh, did you not realize that Morales is on your outside?
Oh, they're at the checkers.
Yeah.
No. No, I was focused on just holding the draft there, and then I got a little. What happened after the flag? Because I about recreated the Dario's wreck from like 15 years ago, where he didn't realize the checkers were out and like vaulted over whoever's in front of him. Yeah, I didn't catch Taylor slowing up as much as he was, so that immediately got my focus.
So, well, obviously, the victory earlier on this season at Phoenix, close to getting the checkered flag here tonight. But I mean, next week it's the big one. It's the season finale, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, full length race, 200 laps. I mean, how excited are you for that one?
I'm definitely excited. I've done some testing around IMS and the speeds that we're carrying there. Ari Lyondike has nothing on the speeds that we're going to be hitting next week. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good race. I'm interested to see how the setup, how the configuration goes. If it's going to be super packed up, or if we're going to be able to spread out a little bit more, make it a little bit more of a driver's race like Motegi was. It's kind of my hope, but either way, IMS. I'm always excited to go to IMS.
Well, congratulations on the third place finish here tonight. Wild one here this evening. Would have liked to have seen how the pit strategy possibly played out here if we had stayed under green, but I don't think I traded in for what we were treated to in that final run to the checkers. Before we let you go, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
I want to thank Charles, Craig, Eric, everybody that helps put these shows on. I want to thank my wife, Britt, for letting me still do this. And I want to thank you all for broadcasting. It's a good show.
That is Will Roberts. He brings it home in the third position here tonight under the lights at the Kentucky Speedway. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week when we head to the Brickyard.
Thank you.
And as per usual, we are not able to get an interview with our second place finisher, Taylor Jordan. So, Matt, your conspiracy theory of him still maybe being Jordan Taylor can continue for another week. We'll leapfrog here to Victory Lane and see if we can dial up Charles Teed. Hey, Charles, Matthew and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
I do. What's up, boys?
Tell you what, as soon as you got this 5-car out in the wind, seemed like nobody was able to mount a challenge, able to hold that inside line. That was in the beginning and middle portions of this race. You have a shootout here in the closing stage. You have 3 lap machines between yourself and Matt Wagner, but you were on it on that restart. I mean, talk about that final run to the checkers, because you had them hounding you behind, left, right. You had to block all sorts of different lanes.
Yeah, I think I was unbelievably fortunate because I'm not anywhere near as good at pit stops as most of these guys. So I would have to race back up to catch up with them. I think I was very fortunate with that last caution because Matt had the thing in the bag. I actually feel bad for Matt. He had great pace. He's not as used to running as these cars as some of us are this year. I think he lifted a little bit too much into 3 that allowed me to stay alongside of him and get him. And I don't think he realized how difficult it was to pass for the lead. So really, really fortunate. But I've had so many times over the years where I've had a car to win and didn't. So I'll definitely take it tonight. I mean, that was a fast group in the front. And you're exactly right. At the very end there, it was bananas with the cars diving below. I had to protect the bottom all the way around, but I also had to get wide enough so I could not have to lift and get the power off of 4 so they wouldn't get a run on me into 1. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So I've got to ask, how much wear were you seeing on that right front tire?
I never looked, to be honest with you. I should have. Craig might be on par with me as bad as tire saving as I am. I never looked, but it got loose at the very end. I love a loose car, so it was just a little bit loose in the last 5 to 10 laps. But I was just telling them in the other channel, if this thing would have ran another 10 laps and it would have started to break loose, that's when these are really fun to drive. It wasn't quite there yet. So super, super lucky. Will was coming up behind me with new tires, and he was one of the few that could diamond off of 4 and get back under. He did it in practice to me, so I was very concerned that he might do it in the race. But they were busy. It was a beehive right behind me.
So a multi-win season now heading into the finale at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Obviously some good momentum here tonight heading into that race. So,
Yep.
thoughts about maybe getting a three-peat here this season, maybe get that big one in Indianapolis next week.
I would love it. I have a feeling we'll have some of the bigger names come out and run with us too. I would be surprised if we don't have like Nick DeGroot, kind of some of the guys that are really, really good. And again, it comes down to pit stops. And to go in the lead and come out 2 seconds behind, that's really, really painful. And that's all me. With real life, it's hard for me to get any practice. And these young bucks are very tough and very, very good. 9 times out of 10, Joust sped. I think there were several that sped into the pits that really helped me. So we'll take it. Sometimes the tortoise and the hare, the tortoise gets the win.
Well, we were talking here tonight with you having that ability of holding the bottom, seemed very Nick DeGroot-esque, so job well done. You pick up the
Thank
checker
you.
flag here tonight. Enjoy the victory, but before we let you go and continue your celebration, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I want to thank you guys for doing such a great job. 40s Racewear, want to thank them. That's an unbelievable comment. There's no way that I belong in the same breath as Nick DeGroot, but we'll take it. I really like anyone that's listening or watching this stream. If you want to come run with us, we'd love to have you. We got one more race. We'll start back up again. We want to get this field back up to 20 cars. It's kind of a combination between a Cup car and an Indy car with the way they drive. So I think people have a lot of fun with them, and we can broadcast them without getting in trouble with Indy cars. So hopefully some more folks will come out and run with us. Just really, really appreciate it. For the last, really since COVID, you guys have been fantastic. And really made this league for us. So I genuinely thank both of you. You're both great people and really appreciate you doing the broadcast.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for putting on a great show for us here tonight. And congratulations on the victory here at Kentucky. Go enjoy it in preparation for next week at Indianapolis.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
And that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight. Points have been calculated. 33 points. The gap between Taylor Jordan versus Eric Schaus going into next week. Still, with it being a double points race, it is manageable. And you heard right there from Charles Teed, we've had some somewhat lower car counts here down this home stretch, but everybody wants to win to Indianapolis. We're going to see some familiar names coming back and wanting to run there at the 2.5-mile historic speedway. So slightly bigger car count, more points on the line. 33 points might not necessarily be too bad for Eric Schaus to try and overcome, but Taylor Jordan, the consistency is going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it really just comes down to go win. Because that's really the surefire way of really just saying, I've done all I can. If you win and you still end up losing it, I mean, you can't really do any more than that. I mean, you've kind of made your bed. It's one race left. This is how it's going to work.
I'm going to ask you from a driver's point of view because, in the multiple different series that we broadcast here on FRN, sometimes the answer is different depending on the type of racetrack you go to, the finale or the type of series that it is. Taylor Jordan is obviously going to be on defense going into next week. Eric Schaus is going to be on offense. Which position do you want to be in heading into that season finale in Indianapolis? Do you want to be in Taylor Jordan's shoes and try and manage the gap to the 72, or do you want to be Eric Schaus where it's just kind of go for it, run your own race, look for that checkered flag, and not even really care about the points?
I have been fortunate enough to be on both ends before. I've been the hunter and I've been the hunted. And I will say that I definitely enjoyed being the hunted a lot better than the hunter because, I mean, it's just a thing of I'd rather know that, look, to win this, I have to finish in this position. No matter what they do, I have to finish here. Because that's something I can base my strategy around. And I at least know that I'm a little bit more of a, hey, I can kind of plan out defensive driver. This is how I'm going to just kind of putt and ride in the field and make sure I can clinch this. While, hey, being the guy trying to trace that guy down, I mean, really your only surefire bet is to make sure you can do all you can is to go out and win, which is already a tall task in this field. But just to go out and win, and it's a moving bar where, hey, it could be, hey, this guy's running in 15th. Well, I need to finish in 5th to make sure I lock in my title. And then, hey, suddenly, hey, he's running 10th. Well, I got to go win the race. It just kind of gets into a headache, and it turns into, well, I'd rather just go win the race or try to win the race, because if I don't win the race, I'm not going to get this.
Well, tonight was one of our shorter races of the season. Next week, it is the longest race of the season, 500 miles, 200 laps, the full length at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But the goal will still be the same, execution, because we've seen many a time in the Indy 500 races that we broadcasted here for Dark Horse Racing Series, race wins have been gained and lost based off of execution on pit road or the timing of taking a run, maybe making a risky move, double wide or three wide, going into one of those corners. It's a very technical racetrack, is Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so going to be really interesting to see how these drivers handle it for that final checkered flag on the season, and of course double points on the line as well. It's going to be a test of these drivers' endurance also, because it is a full-length race. Our start time will be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be coming to you mid-afternoon, as we will be covering the entirety of that race, seeing who will get that checkered flag, who will hoist that championship trophy. You will not want to miss it. Going to be a wild one. Matt, I'm looking forward to joining you up in the booth for that one. But wild one here tonight. We kind of had the script flipped on us, if you will. We thought we were going to see a strategy race, clean and green all the way to the end. Then we got that shootout in the closing stages. Wild one this evening in the Bluegrass State, but I appreciate you joining me up in the booth for this one.
Always a blast.
Thanks to everybody that enjoyed our race here tonight. And again, we'll see you next Sunday night, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we will bring you coverage of the season finale. It is the Dark Horse Crop Duster 500 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But for Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for joining us here tonight at Kentucky. Congratulations to Charles Teed on the victory. And we'll see you guys next week for the conclusion of the Dark Horse Racing Series, the Fart NDCar Series, here on FRN, the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing